tell you when someone is.
Video quality is
Amazing.
beautiful. And my phone is actually turned down. Do.
Did Monique tell you that to save your battery or something?
No, I do that on all my phones because it hurts my eyes. But it's beautiful though. I want to touch myself.
Hello and welcome.
Sorry.
Hello and welcome to another edition of our Talk It Out sessions presented by VERB. We're your hosts, Aaron Tate, Adrian Poe. The lovely Jasmine Patterson could not be with us today, but she's with us in spirit. Let's say hello to our future selves. So if you've caught our other videos, then you know what we like to do is we like to pick a specific topic, particularly one that is controversial. We like to come up with different talking points as well. And we also like to get involved with you guys as well. So for those of you tuning in, please feel free to comment and ask questions you may want us to answer that you think might contribute to the conversation. But today's lovely topic, we are here to discuss how do you approach a situation that is bothering you, knowing that it might get aggressive or confrontational. And this is one of the topics that we pulled from the list of topics you guys provided to us a couple of videos ago. So would you like to begin with why we arrived at this?
I feel like this topic came from, I feel like a lot of people struggle with this. Especially last week, I was actually involved with a couple of conversations where people were so concerned about, I don't really, my thing is always just say that. But then they reminded me that, everyone is not like you. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? They were like, well, everyone is not as, blunt or open and honest about stuff. And we're always concerned about the outcome of the conversation. So we're going to address two sides. My version would be, well, what led you to believe that this is even going to be something confrontational? Like, where does that idea come from? Because when I'm processing that, it's kind of like, it may be confrontational, but this is how the freak I feel, so we finna discuss it. But then Aaron is actually going to go through steps explaining to you all how to go about addressing those things. And I think both sides of this coin will actually help you, get through whatever the situation may be, no matter what it may be.
Correct. All right. So, first question of today. So the first question you sent me was, where does the hesitation stem from in terms of approaching the bothersome situation?
So for those of you who take the approach of, well, dang, I really don't want to, talk to this person about this because I'm scared or feel fearful or nervous that it may be confrontational, I want to know for you, where does that sense of hesitance come from before addressing said issue? Do you have an idea where that type of mentality stems from?
Their hesitation. It could be from fear of how the person is going to react to what they're wanting to say, fear of the outcome. Once we address it, what does this mean moving forward for us? Because it could yield an unfavorable outcome for them. Those are two off the top of my head that I can think of. So
while we're waiting on them, I want to address the second one. I believe that's the most common. The whole, where does this leave us afterwards? Because I got a homegirl who, her and her friend guy, they never really established what we are, and it was one of those where I really don't want to
have the conversation.
But it's kind of like, but if we don't, how long do we go?
We just in limbo right
now.
Right.
So, and then you can't be mad when now things are coming up that are normally only addressed once we're established, but we're not established. So you can't feel a way about a conversation that we really can't have right now because we didn't have the original conversation. And I'm just talking to her, I'm just like, just asking. What are we? But it was kind of like, I don't want to do that. But then she did it, and now it's kind of like, well, dang. Like, I should have left it. Left it where it was.
Because now we're nothing.
Yeah. But we were nothing before. I just feel like I feel like people that do that fall into the that's so Raven mentality. It's kind of like she'll have a vision of something going wrong, and then she do everything in her power to prevent it from going wrong,
Which
and
is
that's what makes it go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So if we stop the whole, well, I'm not going to address it because it's confrontational, then just go ahead and address it and then accept what it is. I don't feel like we'll continue the cycle of, well, I don't really want to do it, because now it's kind of like it has to be done one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that there's a nice way to do something that you perceive to end bad. Like, no matter how long you wait, no matter if you dress it up, you can take it out, like, it's still going to do whatever it was going to do in the first place. Because the niceness of something or the time doesn't offset the effects of it, to me. So yeah, I think that that second one you mentioned is the main one. Like, it's kind of like I'm afraid of what the outcome may be, but no matter when you do it, that's still going to be an issue.
Yeah. All right, so Ms. Rhonda, I see you joined us today. Hello. Can you give us your opinion on why you think people are hesitant to address a bothersome situation that they, might think might turn aggressive? What is your opinion? Excuse me.
I also feel like it could stem from growing up in a household where you didn't have a chance to address issues. Like, you may have had an issue, like, I want to tell my mom that I don't like the way she yelled at me, or I want to tell my dad whatever, but you never was given that space. So now every single person you approach is kind of like, I want to say this, but I never built the voice for this type of stuff, so I'm going to just let it build up.
Rhonda said probably out of fear and not wanting to hear the response. Yeah. Well, I think one step that I came up with on how to begin to approach a situation that might get aggressive, first off, we all need to check our emotions. If someone is met with aggression, then they're going to respond with aggression. So, for instance, let's say if I physically try to attack you, or like, let's say if I physically try to punch you, your initial instinct is to defend yourself and to respond with either equal or greater force, right? That's the same thing with verbally speaking with someone. If you're directing your verbal communication with aggression, someone's instinctively going to respond with aggression. So I think the first thing we need to do is check our emotions. Now, I'm not by any means saying that you're not allowed to feel your emotions and process your emotions. Feel free to feel whatever you feel as a result of what someone has done. However, if you have not mastered the ability for your emotional state to coexist with your ability to reason and rationalize things, then you don't need to be trying to go into that situation full of emotions or with your emotional state heightened. Take time to process your emotions and feel your emotions first. And then once you've come down from that state, then allow your ability to reason to come to the forefront once you're ready to have the conversation. Now, that's not to say that it's not possible for the two to coexist, but you have to have been practicing, you have to have been actually exercising your ability for the two, for you to be able to still have a logical reasoning conversation in the midst of feeling certain emotions in the process. But I do not recommend, if you have not mastered that ability, please do not go into the conversation with your emotions at the forefront.
And I just realized something as you were saying that the reason that great process, but the reason that isn't going to work for people, well, some people, is because people directly attach their ability to have the conversation with that said emotion. So say the situation comes up and now they're emotional about it and they want to go address it. You're telling them the correct process and it will work. But what they'll do is, once they calm down, they're no longer going to feel like it's as valid. So they'll just be like, it'll be okay now because I'm over it. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is great. It's not that you're over it. It's just you're now able to have a more logical perspective before presenting it.
Right.
And then when people get that I'm over it mentality, they'll throw it to the back of their mind. So then when something else comes up, they throw that to the back. And they keep throwing these things to the back and not realizing that, okay, just because I'm calm, that doesn't mean it's not as valid.
So if that is the case, a question you had was, should you just hold it all in? And is that even helpful in the
Right.
in the
And
process?
that's why when you said, I like, dang, your step to overcome it is actually a question that I had about it, because I'm just thinking back a lot of times, like conversation with my wife. My wife basically stated that that's what she does. That's why I realized, dang, people do that. She feel as though, like, if I'm currently emotional about it and I can't effectively do it like you just said it, once I calm down, she feel like it loses value. But for me, I can effectively do it, and even if I calm down, I'm sure enough finna give it to you, not because I've had time to process it.
Yeah.
But I realize there are a lot of people out there that directly attach the emotion of a situation to their effectiveness in being able to communicate it. But if you remove the emotion, which is the logical thing to do, they also act as if the situation needs to be removed as well. And that's not healthy at all.
Right. Rhonda says some people address issues but then don't like the answer. But to me, now you know. So that should be a good thing, even if you don't like the answer. Hope that makes sense. Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does. And you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Another reason why the emotion needs to be removed, or at least doesn't need to be at the forefront, is because a lot of times our emotional state clouds our ability to reason. It clouds our judgment. It clouds our logic. So yeah, again, just to reiterate what we said is, unless you've practiced the ability to be able to, the ability for your emotional state to coexist with your ability to reason and rationale, please, if you're going to approach a situation, try to approach it without emotions at the forefront. Take time to process your emotions, but then once you've processed it and you've calmed down, then bring out your reason and rationale to actually address what's being said or what's going on.
I can actually see how people directly attach the emotional energy to their ability, right? It's kind of like confidence. Like some things you have the confidence to do and you rush into it. But when you're not as confident, you're a little bit more hesitant. And I feel like that's what a lot of people do. They feel like, well, since I'm emotional and I'm crying about it, he's really going to hear me. You know what I'm saying? But then if I'm no longer emotional and crying about it, they may perceive it as, well, he's not going to feel me because I'm not currently feeling it myself. And that's not a good place to be. Your rationale and logic is always valid. The emotion is the part that fluctuates, that we have to get around, or like you said, find a way to make sure that they're coexisting with one another.
All right. Now, another thing you mentioned was, does the situation make a difference? So my next step in approaching the situation was to identify the actual problem. It's crazy how
right. I say my questions is actually being answered like this, and mind you, we haven't even discussed this before we got together.
So next step would be to actually identify the problem. Now, and this kind of ties into the whole emotional thing. We all are living in one reality, but we're all perceiving it differently, right? So you may have a perception of something that might not actually be what's currently happening. So before approaching someone or addressing a problem that you have with someone, identify what the actual problem is. And again, that goes back to removing your emotions out of it and then actually analyzing the situation. Because again, you might be perceiving something happening that isn't actually happening. Or even if it is happening, that other person may be perceiving it completely differently as well. So find a way to actually identify the problem. And then also, even if you're not able to actually identify the actual problem, let's say you think the problem is one thing, but it's really something else. But if you're trying to tell someone about the problem that you think you have, it's not going to make sense when it comes out of your mouth. Because what happens is you get people like us who like to repeat back to you what you said, and you be like, that don't make sense, or that's not what I said.
But that's what you said.
But that's what you said. So try to actually identify what the actual problem is so that you can actually address that and not what you are perceiving as the problem when it really isn't the problem.
People really, and it's funny, not like, as I hear you talk, I'm just thinking of how many conversations I've had where like they jumped into it based on the emotion, and then when we get down to it, I'm like, but that's not what you started with. Like, that's nowhere near what we started this conversation with, but now you're saying, oh, well, that's it. So now basically you've attacked me with the emotion. I've talked you down from the emotion, and then I've also helped you realize what the real issue is, and now you want me to now solve that.
Yeah.
I'm tired. We got to do this another day. I'm done. I don't have anything left.
Right, I'm done at this point, bro. All right, before we move on, do you have any comments, any questions? Rhonda, how do you feel about what we're saying so far?
And also, Rhonda, could you help us make sure this audio is pretty good?
I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step. So the next step I came up with was to, once you've identified the actual problem, now let's try to recall moments when the problem actually occurred. So there's a couple layers to this. Now, the first layer is not to assume the other person knows what you're talking about. I know I've had this done to me a couple of times. Is, someone brings up like, why did you do that, or this is a problem. What is a problem? Don't play. No, I don't. I'm asking. I need you to tell me what is the problem. You know what the problem is. Don't be stupid. I don't need to. Okay, well, how can I know? Or even if you tell me what the problem is and I ask you, okay, well, when did this happen? I don't need to bring up when this happened because you know.
Oh, I feel like I shouldn't have to say all that.
Right, but it's like.
But yet we're here.
Right, and it goes back to you can have a perception of something that's happening, and either I'm not perceiving it the same way, or it's not actually happening. So at the very least, bring up or recall moments in time where this problem actually occurred. That way I can have something to link it to. I can have a moment or a few moments to link what it is that you're saying to me in order to identify with what you're saying as well. So it's very important to be able to recall moments. Now, another layer of that is we as people, for some reason, we like to take one or two moments and we stretch it out over time as if this problem has been occurring since the beginning of time.
I'm talking Dr. Strange.
So not only is it important to recall moments when this problem occurred to give that person something to link what it is that you're saying to, but it's also important to only address the moments where this problem occurred. Don't take one or two moments and say, oh, well, you always do this, or I hate when because you've been doing this since the beginning, we'll do whoop. That's not really the case.
Because I never even knew it was a thing.
Right. Another point that I brought up was...
Hey, Brittany.
Another part that I brought up was to only measure the problem appropriate to the magnitude of its effect. So we all know that there are certain things that can happen once and it tears down the entire fabric of existence, right? But there's certain things that can happen many times, but the effect of it isn't as great. You know what I mean? So that's not to say that there aren't those one or two situations that you recall doesn't still have a huge impact. However, we need to make sure we're only measuring the magnitude of the specific problem appropriate to its effect. So for instance, cheating. Like, we know if you cheat one time, that has the potential to destroy everything, right? Lying doesn't have as big of an effect. Forgetting to go pay the bill this month because you was busy appropriately to the magnitude of its effect. So if it's happening over a period of time, then let's address the period of time that it's happening and the effect that it has had. If it has only happened once or twice, let's only measure it based on those one or two times it's happened and the effect that it's actually having, whether it be big or small. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because do you know why I think people do that though? It's the same reason that they feel like I need to address it in the emotion so that you can feel what I feel. It's the whole yes, this only happened 1 or 2 times, but if I make you believe that it's been going on this whole duration, you will now agree to it more, or it's a more likely chance of you to accept what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you ain't gotta do all that.
Mm-hmm.
If we're only talking about this specific situation, I'm able to comprehend it happening for this specific situation. You don't have to try to link it to every other aspect of me to make me be like, oh, okay, well, I do that. Like you said, let's just address it right here. But I feel like they don't think that that's enough, so they pull and put a whole bunch of it on this one. It's like, you don't have to do all that to drive it home.
Yeah. Now, I mean, on the flip side of that, I think people might have adopted that way of doing it because they feel like even me addressing the 1 or 2 times that it's happened, if you're going to continue to do it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's why they feel like if I go ahead and let you know that you done did this, like when you make statements like, you do this all the time, but we know like this is my first time ever doing this. But if I tell you you do it all the time, it's a more likely chance that you will stop because I've now shown you a repeated pattern of when you did it. Mm-hmm. But if I be like, hey man, I didn't like when you did such and such, you be like, okay, my bad. That sounds like, well, you're probably going to do it again. So if I go ahead and whoop you tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day, and make you believe that all of that is happening right now, it's a more likely chance of you to stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy how we process information.
Hey, Takira, she's just tuned in. So, Takira, today's topic is how do you approach a situation that's bothering you, knowing it can get aggressive? So we've kind of asked a few questions pertaining to why we might be hesitant to approach these situations, and I've come up with a few steps on how you can actually do so. Just to recap, the first step would be to check your emotions. Try to separate your emotions from your ability to reason before approaching a situation. If you approach someone aggressively, they're going to respond aggressively. It can also get aggressive if you don't identify the actual problem. So let's identify the problem and then bring what the actual problem is to the person versus bringing what you're perceiving to be a problem, which isn't actually a problem. Once you've identified the actual problem and you address it, recall moments when the problem occurred. Don't just assume that the person knows what it is that you're talking about or knows when the problem occurred. Give them a few instances for them to be able to link what you're saying to. All right. Also, don't stress the problem out further than it should be stretched. So if it's only occurred 1 or 2 times, let's only address those 1 or 2 times that it's happened. Measure the problem appropriate to the magnitude of the effect of the problem. Again, that's not to say that there aren't certain problems that can only happen once and it tears down everything, but there are also problems that, it can happen 1,000,000 times and, we just keep it rocking. So let's only measure the problem appropriate to the effect that it has.
I've done that before.
What's that?
Like, took like 1 or 2 things, and to further drive it home, I scratch it. But it's like, it really didn't have to be scratched that far. Like, just hit it right here and move on. But it was like I said, it was because I feel like if I could find a lot of times during a long period of time, you would be more receptive of me telling you now, mm-hmm. which would decrease the chance of it happening again.
Now, do you feel like a couple questions you have is, does the time and place matter? For you guys that are tuned in, does the time and place matter depending on, or to determine if you should address a situation that might get aggressive?
I feel like it does and doesn't.
Why does it?
It does matter because there are specific times where you should address things to keep down another level of aggression. Like if we're at a wedding and I'm telling my wife, hey, I want a divorce. Come on. Like, what the freak she gonna do with that? You know what I'm saying? But like we're at home and we're having a conversation like, hey, I don't think I can do this. We have time to now discuss it. She don't have to be up in front of people doing stuff, and I get that. But now the effects of what I said isn't gonna change. So the location of where I tell you is just gonna add something more to where in your mind, like, dang, and you did it at a wedding.
Yeah.
Like you not only you want to do this, but now you did it at a wedding.
Yeah, and I can't react how I really want to react.
Exactly. So that's why I do feel like it does. But then on the flip side, I feel like it doesn't because, like I said, the effects of what I said doesn't change regardless of the location. Mm-hmm. So the only reason I think that it does matter where is because you're basically giving them more things to add on top of the current issue at hand.
I got you. Takira said yes. So you believe that the time and place does matter to address certain situations.
Or like at work. Like, you shouldn't do it at work, especially like you operating a crane and your wife calls and be like, hey, I want a divorce. Well, I'm sorry. Like,
kill everybody.
So yeah, it can definitely have a damaging effect on, you know, the area or location you're in.
Mm-hmm.
But then don't think that, well, I need to keep holding off until I find the perfect spot, because there's really no perfect spot.
Yeah. I think it depends on the people. Takira said, I think something should be said in a private way and in a calm setting. See, I can agree with that. I think it also depends on the people. Like I just take you and me, for instance. I feel like because of who we are, the rapture can come and we can still have a conversation.
Yeah, we're like, hey, bro, that's crazy.
Like, I think we've shown the ability to, despite any place that we're at, to effectively have a conversation without it getting out of hand or without either of us feeling like I'm not comfortable having it here. But for
even like we were talking the other day, like people were stopping in to listen. Like,
right.
Bro, we are like, fighting right now. What do you want?
Clearly, we're having
like, is our debate that confusing? But that goes back to
skipped in.
Yeah, like this is gonna get good. So. But that goes back to what you said. I mean, how many people, and not to brag or boast, you know, outside of ourselves, or maybe a couple of people we've come across,
mm-hmm.
are actually able to balance out, okay, this is how I feel about something. My emotions are valid, but I'm also able to have a logical conversation with you, like hand in hand with my emotions. I haven't met that many people though, so I get.
That's why I say it depends on the people. if you us, you can do it. If not,
you don't do that.
And that goes to a question you asked: should we be concerned about what others are going to take? Wait.
Ms. Panel said people don't like to be blindsided, and also some people might feel attacked if said at the wrong place and the wrong time. And that's the thing, like, I don't know for you what's the wrong place or wrong time, because you can even have that at home. Mm-hmm. So say my wife at home, she in a tub having a bubble bath, you know, glass of wine, just chilling, right? And then I come up and be like, hey, we finna get evicted. Like, I don't know. She gonna be like, well, why would you tell me that? And I'm already in a calm setting. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. When do you want me to tell you that? So I'm saying, so like, how do we determine what is like, because there's so many situations that could be told, right? How do we know what's the wrong place and wrong time? Like, there's no book to tell us, okay, if it's a divorce, don't do it at a wedding, don't do it at a birthday party, don't do it at any celebration. You can do it at a dinner, you can do it, like you're saying, there's no guidelines for this.
I think what people are trying to say is like, don't do it in a place where I have to then control my reaction or my response, if that makes sense. So like you said,
so do it somewhere where if I want to kill you, I can
kill you. Yes. So
that's not healthy for me.
So like,
I need to do it in somewhere that you can't kill me.
Your example for the wedding is like, you going to a wedding where two people are getting married and you're telling your wife you want a divorce. It's like, I can't turn up on you in front of these people. That's the safest spot for
me though. So now you're telling me don't do what's best for me, because at home she could grab a knife, I can go to sleep, she can stab me. Like, so that's the best place for me. So when we say wrong place, wrong time, on who's a card?
So you're saying from your perspective, you're bringing it up in this situation, knowing that you're gonna have to stay controlled.
Yes.
And for them, it's like, but I can't.
want to be able to kill you.
Right.
So when y'all say wrong place, wrong time, who is that based on? The offender or the offended?
So that, I think that goes to another question you asked is who determines the circumstances of the conversation? Takira said you got to read the vibes. What up, Kevin?
Who determines
the circumstances of the conversation? So who determines when and where we have these conversations?
And this goes back to a lot of other things that we brought up in these situations where we're always looking at it from the offended point of view, but not the offender, mm-hmm. because they have just as much equal rights. Like, this is not by no means what I want, but I'm saying if I want a divorce, but I know my wife about that life, I need to be protecting my own life. So yeah, I'm gonna wait till we go to a wedding or a dinner party or somewhere, because
somewhere public.
Yeah,
to
because
where you
I now have to be fearful of my life. So mm-hmm. who are you to tell me? Well, don't tell her at a wedding, or don't tell her at work, or don't tell her here because she can't react. But then her reaction leads to my death, and now I'm on the news. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when you say read the vibes, my vibes tell me do it at work. Because if we at home, I can't sleep. So who determines who? Who are we really looking out for here? And y'all can't be like, oh, well, you deserve to die. Now we got a different story.
Right.
So who vibes are we reading?
I don't know.
Whose life are we trying to look out for? So is there really a right place and a right time for equal parties?
Again, I feel like it just goes back to it depends on the people. Like her comment about read the vibes, I think is really like knowing your partner or knowing who it is that you're addressing. So like, again, back to you and me, I know you well enough to know that I can address any problem and we can have a conversation about it regardless of where we're at. But for instance, your wife, if you know your wife is going to turn up,
I got to find the next person getting married to do this because you not finna kill me when I go to sleep. No, bro.
So you just gotta. I think you just gotta know your personnel, know who you're dealing with. Takira said you can get attacked at work too.
It's a less likely chance that at work. But then also I do consider, you know what I'm saying, well, at work I'm finna mess with her mentality. She may snap out on her team, lose her job. But then I don't want to lose my life though.
Yeah.
So it's difficult.
Yeah.
And to be fair, before this conversation, I never thought about it like that. I only thought about, well, dang, I don't know if there's a right time or place, but I'm looking at it from her perspective. But then I'm like, dang, she could kill me.
Yeah.
So like, I do need to do this at a wedding or at a birthday dinner or at work because I'm not trying to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough question. I really don't think that there's a right answer to that. All right. My next step would be to understand how the person may have processed what happened. So again, going back to, we're all living in this one reality, but we're all perceiving it differently.
So it's really like a multiverse.
Yeah. So however it is that you processed or perceive the situation, that you have to consider that whoever you're addressing, they may not have processed it the same way that you did. So be willing to, at least if you're going to force your perception of the situation or the problem on them, be willing to at least hear how they processed what happened. Because again, for you it's a problem, but for them this is another Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like
I just woke up.
It's just Tuesdays. That's
good. That's good.
So be willing to accept that, or accept how someone else processed the situation. And once we're able to come to an understanding about each other's process or each other's mental process or perception, then we can work to find a solution to the problem.
Correct. I agree. So it's not a right answer because hurt is always going to be present. I agree. What up, James? It's tough. I never really considered both sides. It's really hard juggling both perspectives. So you really got to pick the one that's best for you.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the questions that I asked, or one of the statements.
Well, one question is, do all situations need to be addressed?
That goes back to what you're saying, like with this multiverse perspective. Now it's kind of like what you consider a situation. I don't even like. It was Tuesday, but then when you bring it up, it's like, bro, it ain't that deep. But I have to be willing to accept. Well, what's not deep for me may also be deep for you, and that's something I still struggle with now, because in my mind, a lot of things people come to me with, I'm like, bro, what the freak is this? Like, this is simple, but I have to stop doing that because I now see that my perception is not your perception and yours is not mine. So it's like, dang, even though this is elementary stuff, this is a real issue for you. And to be honest, and I got to get over this. When I hear that, I put people in a different perspective in my head, but I really shouldn't do that because your perspective is not mine and mine is not yours, which doesn't make you any greater or lesser, or me any greater or lesser. But that's something, I don't know where I picked it up from, but I'll be like, bro, you can't be that slow. But
so
like,
so you're saying in your mind, it's almost like you belittle what it is that you're addressing. Yeah, I can say I struggle with that as well. Like, even with our most recent situation, you know, I had to realize, like, okay, I get my mental process, but I also have to consider, and you know, how everybody else is perceiving the situation, and that is just as valid as mine.
That's tough though.
It is.
I don't like doing that, but it's something we must do. But it's kind of like,
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Takira said empathy. Steve said address all that. Okay. So all situations need to be addressed.
I mean, I could agree because I mean, if it's a situation and we're dealing with people who we care about, it needs to be discussed.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing. Yeah, I agree. All situations should be addressed because it shouldn't go swept up under the rug because that's that whole putting everything to the back. So now when something else come up, you throwing stuff out that I didn't even know there was a problem. So I'm like trying to figure out well, where that come from.
Or that same problem just continues to build up.
Yeah.
Um.
Kevin said that's toughest.
Yeah.
What part? Oh, well, yeah, trying to deal with the fact that, like, the way I perceive this is not the way you perceive it, and both of our perceptions are valid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the whole debate come in, because it's kind of like, I'm literally trying to get you to think like I think. But it's like, bro, calm down. That's yours. This is mine. And now let's figure out how to, like, get them to coexist and not try to overshadow one another.
Yeah, which leads me to my next step, which is to collaborate to find a solution. So definitely need to figure out, okay, well, how do we move forward from here now that each person was able to address how they perceive their perception of the situation or their perception of what happened or whatever problem that's being addressed.
That I want my perception to be accepted is so strong, and I'm gonna give you the situation. Me and Swana was headed somewhere, and she had something to do, and something came up with the car. So in my mind, we got to get this car fixed. The location to get the car fixed was like right up the road. Swanee didn't know that. I knew that, but I thought Swanee knew that. So Swanee was like, well, let's go ahead and get this task completed first, and then we can get the car fixed. I'm like, well, why would we do that when we're this far away from getting the car fixed? And when we headed home, she was like, are you okay? I was like, to be honest, like, I'm bothered because I feel like your priority is not in the right spot. She was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, the store's right here, blah, blah, blah. She was like, well, I didn't know the store was right there. And I was like, oh. I was like, okay. Well, I apologize. I see your priorities weren't in the right spot because you didn't have all the information you needed. To me, the conversation is done. I fixed where I had you in my head. Your rationale behind why you think like you think was justified, but like she kept wanting to question, well, why would you think I would think that anyway? And I'm like, bro, you've already solved the case. But it's still, well, I don't like the fact that you thought of me like that, but you've explained why you thought that. I've explained how I arrived, and we were done. But she was so adamant about making sure that she pulled that thought out. But it's like, you don't have to. I did that for you. Once you confirm, I didn't know that it was right up the road. I now was able to reorganize. Well, no, her priorities was not in the wrong spot. She just didn't have locations. Because in her mind, the location of what we needed to do was closer than the location of getting the car fixed. And I was done with it. And I just really couldn't fathom, like, you are trying to get something out of my head, which is a bad image of you that I've already confirmed to you that no longer exists. But it's kind of like, once I put it out there, hey, I don't like the fact that your priorities was out of whack. You cleared it up, but it's still like you just wanted to make sure there was no residue. And it's like, it's done. And that's what I'm saying, the whole collaborate on a result. We both have to come to the realization that once I voice my perspective, once you voice your perspective, neither one of those are a 10 commandment. They're just two perspectives. And we could come to a resolve saying, oh, well, I see why you thought like that. You see why I thought like that. Do we both understand? Yes, we do. Case should be closed. And I think we continue to try to, well, this is mine. And this is mine. Like, whoa.
And this is mine.
Like, okay.
Takira said she was probably shocked that you had that image in the first place.
And she was. But the thing is, I explained where that image came from because of her lack of knowing where we were going. So that's the only option she had. So when she did that, I removed the image, but now you're trying to solve something that's already solved. We were supposed to collaborate on, this is why I thought like that. I understand why you thought like that. I removed the image. That was done. That was the collaborating on the result. Yeah. But even after the result, it was still, well, why did you think of me like that? Well, you should have never thought of me like that. You know I wouldn't dare do. I'm like, but that's done. Like, you're trying to recover something that has already been uploaded. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because you want your perspective to be accepted.
Yeah. And then I feel like there's another layer to that, but we don't. That's another video. Steven said, that's like Shay don't want another child and I do. Logically, I allow myself to agree with her and act accordingly. Emotionally, I still speak on my passion on wanting another child. She still overrides the logic I present because of my emotions, thinking I don't agree enough to respect what she wants.
perspective. Both of y'all have two different perspectives, but I mean, I guess it's kind of what Swanee felt. It was kind of like, I logically get that you're saying that perspective is gone and you no longer think of me like that, but now my emotions feel some type of way. But we can't come to decisions based on emotions like that because they fluctuate. Just like with you know that logically it's not a good idea right now. Shay don't want it at all, so it's kind of like your emotions is hurt, but logically you get it. Like, you got to swallow that. Like, she gonna have to, when she really got, it's tough. Like, somebody gonna have to just eat that.
Yeah.
Like, we both gotta eat something on some end, and you just gotta, when it's your turn, just swallow your one. Like.
So, Kevin said emotion versus logic. So, well, this ain't even a question I came up with, but listening to that, it's like, okay, so which one do we go with in this situation?
Yeah. How do we collaborate?
Does logic always trump emotion, or is there a space for emotion to trump logic in some spaces? I
don't think logic always trump emotion, but when I say that, it has to be a very specific situation that would allow the emotion of something to overshadow the logic. Like the situation we had, the whole emotionless that was displayed the no emotion that was displayed in our situation didn't allow you to come up with logical things to provide help in the situation. Mm-hmm. Because you were being so logical, it was like step 1, step 2, step 3, I'm gone. But if there would have been a level of emotion, that would have activated some logic. So I feel like emotion don't always trump logic, but sometimes you need to apply emotions in order to even get to the logic. But always logic trumps the emotion of stuff, if that makes sense.
So but let's speak in this situation specifically with the Steve wants a child, Shay doesn't. Does the logic trump his emotion of wanting a child because of their current situation? You know what I mean? Like,
by Trump is not saying his emotions is not valid. And I think for a lot of stuff, that's the thing that makes people feel away, because they feel like when we say, well, the logic behind it trumps the emotion, mm-hmm. It comes off as saying your emotions are not valid. Mm-hmm. They are very valid, yet I don't think it's productive for us to live on logic, on emotion alone, because it's so fluctuating. Logic is more foundational. So yes, in the Steve and Shay situation, the logic behind it trumps the emotion of it, but it doesn't desensitize the emotion. So let's collaborate on how we can get both in one perspective.
Yeah. Steven was laughing. Kevin said somebody taking the L.
Yeah, somebody gonna take the L.
Steve said, why can't we both swallow? Because I don't mind. Stop being nasty, Steve.
Nasty.
Just Takira says sometimes logic can hinder decisions.
Yeah.
Sometimes logic can hinder decisions. Oh, kind of.
Yeah, the situation. Yeah, if you are extremely logical, even with me though, like even with me, a lot of situations that my wife has said, I be like breaking it down, and I forget that like we not robots. Mm-hmm. Like it was something a while back. Oh, I know what it was. Simple, super simple. It was about the man and woman body type. It was something about bathing or something. Mm-hmm. I don't take showers every day. Depending on what I'm doing, I'm not gonna shower every day. But she's always on this, I need to bathe. I'm like, bro, it ain't that deep. You deep, like, I'm boop, 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 boop. Like, I'm talking bow, bow, bow. And she was like, you do know that I'm a female, right? Like, you do know that I have a vagina. And I was like, dang, she got a point. But I was being so logical, like, bro, we ain't been nowhere. You took a shower this morning. Like, it was just doop, doop, doop. And it wasn't until she was like, my body, like, just gave me all these womanly things. I'm like, a freaking idiot. Mm-hmm. I was like, dang, how did I miss that? Because I was being so logically specific about the events that were taking place that I forgot that I don't have a vagina. And my penis don't even work like a vagina works. There's a whole nother ball game going on down there. And I had to apologize like, dang, I'm sorry. And I think she was on a period too. So I just took it way too far.
That's insult to injury, yo.
Like, dang, you a freaking idiot. So yeah, sometimes if you are so logical that you miss the empathetic, emotional part of something, mm-hmm. that you will not process, like, bro, it ain't that deep. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. It's a balance that has to happen.
All right, and I think Kevin was responding to Takira, asking her for an example of how logic can hinder decisions. Steve says she loved to desensitize my emotions when I do agree with her desire to not have a child. Kevin said, "See, that's how I know you don't mind a little seasoning on it, Adrian." Got dog it on info. Talking about the period.
Yeah, no.
Or not taking a shower.
Yeah.
Well, then that leads to my last one, and this kind of goes back to what you were mentioning earlier with the whole thinking that her priorities were not in line. My last step to approaching a situation that can get aggressive is to accept that you might be the problem and not them. Kevin said you nasty. So yeah, a lot of times, again, different perceptions, different ways of viewing things. So again, what I may deem as a problem may not necessarily be a problem to you, and what I'm considering to be a problem may not actually be a problem, or I might be the one that needs to change my way of viewing the situation to determine that it's not actually a problem. So again, for you, for instance, you thought it was a problem that your wife had suggested one thing that was in contrast with what you were suggesting, but then you identified, oh, it was me that was perceiving you incorrectly. Let me switch that around in my mind. So yeah, we have to be able to accept that there are some situations where what we might actually be the problem that we're perceiving, and not either that person or whatever it is that's going on that you're trying to address. Steve said, "Oh, put pressure on that right there."
We actually just had another situation where we was late for work, and I have a logic of you can't be on time for being late. That's me, right? Like when we get up, say if you get up and you know that you're supposed to get up at 7:30 in order to be there on time. Mm-hmm. If you get up at 8, there's no way you can make it. So there's no need of rushing, possibly having a car accident, like trying to get there, because you can't be on time for being late. So we was going to be late like 2 or 3 days ago. I think it was maybe yesterday, day before yesterday. And Swana was like, well, go ahead and drop me off. Because we usually drop Noah off and then go to work. And I'm like, but we're already late. She was like, well, I want to be on time. And I'm like, you want to be on time
for being late?
She was like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, you can't be early for being late. Because I'm still trying to understand. Because my logic is, if I'm late, I'm late. There's no... You're late. Yeah. So she said, well, when we're late, we have to take it off our time card and then use our PTO or vacation if we have any. She was like, I don't want to use my PTO or vacation because I'm saving it for this. Like, she broke down why she's trying to be as less late as possible. And I was like, well, that makes perfect sense. I said, well, why you didn't say that? Mm-hmm. She said, I feel like I didn't have to.
And that goes back to the whole...
If you didn't have to, we wouldn't be having the conversation we're having now.
Like, don't assume I know.
I said, like, when I say you can't be early for being late, to me, that's what I said. Mm-hmm. If I'm 30 minutes, if I'm an hour, it is what it is. But you've given me specific rationales of why you're trying to be as less late or as early late as possible. That makes sense to me now. I don't have that perception. Give me that. And now, when you say, well, I feel like I shouldn't have to, that's a slap in the face. Because if you didn't have to, then we wouldn't be discussing it right now. So clearly you did. But you're assuming that your perception of late and mine is the same. And it's just not. So now I got a new perception of being late. I could take that now and use it. So now I'm going to want to be as less late or as early late as possible because that makes sense to me. Prior to that, I just didn't think of it like that.
Right. I ain't had a lot of comments. Steve said, ain't nothing wrong with a little natural body musk. What's wrong with y'all? I think someone else had a comment earlier that's like she's in
Oh yeah, he was coming to where Steve said.
So D'Angelo was coming to Steve saying, have you tried asking her why she doesn't want more kids? Kevin responded with saying, and I mean a little bit, to a nasty comment. Steve responded to D'Angelo saying, "Yes, I have, and that's why I agree with her desire."
So you agree with her logic over trumping your emotion.
All right. And so another question that you came up with was: once we've addressed the problem, what if the conversation goes south? Do you regret approaching the problems? And so I think that kind of goes back to something you mentioned earlier with your homegirl not wanting to address or have the conversation with whoever she was messing with about what are we. Because now once we had the conversation, I no longer have what little bit of you that I had all together. You know what I mean?
So was it easy to just keep it in? Or?
Yeah. Was it easy to just go along with what it is now, knowing that I want more, but also knowing if I do address it, the possibility that I may lose this little bit that I do have. Or just in general, if the situation goes south, should you regret approaching the situation? I don't think you should, because I mean, if it goes south, it was meant to go south.
Yeah. Whether it happened today or 2 or 3 years from now, and I think once again that's something that creates problems. Because say you can know somebody's doing something or whatever, and you don't address it for the sake of wanting to hold on to them, but then later on down the line when they leave you, it's kind of like, dang, I should have addressed that 3 years ago, and I could have went on about my life. So. Right. It's another one of those. It's tough, and it's not a right answer for it. Like, you have to determine: am I, one, willing to live with holding this in, or two, am I wanting to live with letting it out and getting a bad result, or three, am I willing to let it out, get a good result, and then continue on in it? So like, there's no yes or no or right or wrong. Like, it really depends on the person and what you can and can't deal with in regards of addressing the controversial situation. For me, and I have to accept this, I'm the type of person, if there's an elephant in the room, we're not finna laugh, joke, play Connect Four. Hey, there's an elephant right there. When we get it out the room, we can do that. Other people, they'll like, Uno! Elephant just walking around like, no, we need to talk about that. But like, they let it walk around, and I hate that. But I have to, once again, work on everybody is not me. And that's something I'm currently working on now.
Yeah. Takira was responding to Kevin. Kevin's question earlier. She said Adrian broke it down right after I wrote that, pretty much saying what I was thinking. And she also said, well, at least you know what's up.
Yeah, whenever you go ahead and address it. Yeah. I think it's better in the end. There was this quote from, I can't remember the guy. He said, basically, Maya Angelou. She said, avoiding conflict, basically saying it makes no sense to avoid the inevitable because it's going to hit you anyway, in one way, form, or fashion. I'm about to get the exact quote and post it, but like, basically, we can kind of highly assume how situations are going to turn out. So you avoiding it doesn't give you any rest as it would if you going ahead and face it head on. So that's the approach I take. I go ahead and face it because whether it's today or 2 or 3 years from now, this is finna happen. So let's go ahead and get it done. Like, I don't like the formalities of stuff. Like, when I call somebody, like, if I want something, I may miss saying, hey, such, like, no, hey, how you doing? Cause like, let's go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
Like, it just, that's me though. But I have to realize everybody ain't like me.
But yeah, that's pretty much all the steps and all the questions we have. What questions do you guys have about what we've discussed? Takira, Kevin, Steve? Any thoughts or opinions you guys would like to share?
I just feel like the world would be a better place if let's just go ahead.
Let's just talk.
Like, let's just go ahead. Like, I don't like the tiptoeing around. Like, it literally like feels like something is just in me when I know it's like, bro, why we doing this? Let's go ahead.
Steve says, so do I carry 100 pounds for 5 years, or do I bench press this 210 now with all I got? Bench press the 210.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bench press 210. Like, just go ahead.
You might need a spot, but
yeah, just go. Yeah. You might need a spot, but let's do it. Let's go ahead.
We got to get it out the way, bro.
Like, we ain't on.
Takir said, questions me. Not sure what you mean, Takir.
Her skin is beautiful on this camera.
My skin?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I feel like I look like a goddess. Goddess.
Like it is beautiful.
Like, I think it's just the light in this haircut is doing wonders for me.
Are you promoting your barber? Like, what are you doing here?
Look, I got to,
like,
bro.
calm down.
Gotta big him up, yo. Shout out.
Man, it's tough. There's a lot to deal with. Like, I never thought about. Like, you realize, like, you can have all your logic and emotion, but you still got to sit there and listen to other people too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like doing it. This is my way of the highway, son.
Bruh.
Man.
Especially if I know you're not coming
Man,
with
you
nothing,
not
bruh.
coming with no heat.
You is not, yo. Kevin said, "Hold on, I type slow."
Okay. Like, bruh, where do we get that? Do you think that's a superiority complex? It has to be.
An ego trip.
Like,
or
what
something.
make us think we that? Like, we that?
To be honest, though, I think it comes from having proven ourselves so many times.
times.
It's like, unless you can prove to me that
I
have to assume that I'm the better, yo.
Dang, that's crazy. To be honest, I'm gonna really work on that though, cause I y'all don't know how I be doing y'all in my head. Like, I gotta stop that. That can't be of God. I got to stop.
That is not
It
of
is
the
not
Lord.
of God. It's bad.
Takira said, but when does a person that likes to just bring things to a head become labeled confrontational?
Me.
Because
That's me.
that's what happens with society these days.
That's me.
So you're considered confrontational?
Yes, like people know, like people call me for these things. Like, they want me there because they know I'm gonna rip it off. Like, what is this? Always no time.
But it's still all in how you approach it, though. Like, it's just, again, I feel like confrontation is associated with the idea of aggression. Like, there can't be confrontation unless two people are meeting each other with aggression. You
Legit.
know what I mean?
Me and my homie was just having a conversation because spiritual religion and politics instantly can go left, and we was just having a conversation. Right, he was telling me his beliefs, I was telling him mine, and we had like a 2-hour conversation. And then he made a statement. He was like, well, this is why I don't like discussing these things with people, because it always turned into a debate. And I'm like, you do realize we've been talking about this 2 hours. This is not a debate. He was like, no, I know it's not a debate, but he was just reflecting on like the times he's had it with other people, how it instantly turned into a debate. And I asked him, I said, well, when does a conversation turn into a debate? And he gave the perfect answer, because I say the same thing. A conversation turns into a debate or confrontation when you're not willing to accept the fact that what you're saying is not a 10 commandment. That's your perspective, and you're entitled to it, but I also have one that needs to be heard. If we can't agree on that, it's not going to be a debate. But me and him never clashed, because I listened to everything he said, he listened to everything I said, and it was like, okay, cool. But the line between a conversation and a debate is simply based on, are you trying to make me accept your perspective, or are you simply presenting it to me?
Takira's laughing. Steve said, like, how do you tell a person nicely they got a booger in their nose? Go, Adrian.
I hit on one of these.
I hit him with, let me get that for you. Like, let me just get that for you, bro. I'll get a napkin or something like that and just wipe it for you, son. Depending on how close it is, I'm going to pick your booger for you, son. Depending on how close we are, bro.
That come through on one of these.
Bruh. Especially if we in private. Now, we in public, you might not have no luck with me.
Yeah.
I'm just let you have that. Takira said, I love these types of conversations if both sides come into the conversation without trying to put off your beliefs on someone else.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Kevin said, I was late, but so I don't know what y'all started off with, but I got a couple questions. Clear throat. Number one, can we talk about Loki?
Bad.
Number two, let's hear his opinion on what we were talking about yesterday. What were y'all talking about yesterday?
Are you talking about what you called me about? Because I can generally go around it. Because actually we can tie that in to this, because it really is. No, not this. Let's go. And I really wanted to use this one because it does tie in perfectly. So there's a situation where there's, and to be honest, everything we said in this video is kind of what we were talking about yesterday. So he has a situation that he found out some information, right? And he's struggling with, how do I project my emotions about it, even though I already logically know that it's the what happened is not an issue, but the way you try to defend it is an issue. Because what happened was years ago. But we're having a conversation and you're defending it as if it's recent. Like, this was years ago. Mm-hmm. And he already logically know that it's not a thing. So it's kind of like, how do I, on his behalf, how do I address her knowing that it's finna go left? Like, how do I approach it? It needs to be approached. I need you to understand where I'm at emotionally, but logically, I get it. We're on the same page. I understand. But, like, I feel a way about you trying to downplay something 10 years ago, because we're probably better than that.
Just to make sure I understand it. So, again, the actual issue was already dealt with.
Done.
So the now issue is
you
trying to defend something that was already been dealt with.
Like, you ain't gotta do that. Like, keep it 100.
And how do you?
I'm so hurt by the fact that you try to defend something that was so long ago, and we supposed to be better than that. And so,
are y'all saying there's really no logic involved in approaching the defense of what happened, and it's strictly the emotion?
Yeah, like I'm emotional about the approach you took in explaining what happened 10 years ago. Like, why do you feel like you had to take that approach? We supposed to be better than that. Like, say someone asked me about a girl on my Facebook that I had sex with 10 years ago, and she'd be like, who is this girl? I'm like, oh, that's just a friend I met at GDIT. Now, Swan I already know I done smashed. And then she'd be like, oh, y'all just friends? I'm like, yeah. She was like, did y'all do anything? She already know. And I'm like, nah, we were just friends. It was 10 years ago, bro. Why did I have to lie?
Oh, okay, I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So now she hurt, because, like, all you had to do was tell me.
Mm-hmm.
So now Swanee is trying to figure out, how does she approach me and let me know that it's not what you did, it's the defensiveness you had of what you did that was 10 years ago.
I mean, but it's still what you did, because now we have to address, why did you feel the need to lie? That's a problem we can address.
So only deal with the fact that you lied to me.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even got to bring up bad. Yeah. So we only got to bring up you had sex with her. Bring up, why did you lie?
Correct.
Why did you lie to me?
Because then that might reveal some underlying distrust you have, or some that might bring up some underlying distrust that is still present in our relationship that needs to be eradicated.
So, but like you said earlier, though, make sure you identify the issue. So the issue has nothing to do with the sex.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is simply, why do you feel the need to lie to me?
But if they try to address having sex
with a girl, they're gonna keep bringing it up. You gotta make, and that's where the whole, you have to be in emotional control, because they're gonna, like, I'm gonna be emotional, like, well, I my wife, like, I'm gonna use my emotions to throw you off. Mm-hmm. You just mad because I had sex with somebody. You had sex too. Like, I'm gonna take it there because I'm defensive.
Yep.
Because she's gonna come at me. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get defensive, and now I've evaded the only issue we really have is lying. I lied to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Takira said. Well, Steve said we need names, dates, times.
No.
Kevin said accountability, basically. Takira said the lie is the part, yes. Mm-hmm. And she also said, I feel that when a person lies, then that makes it negative.
I think somebody else.
No, that was it.
Oh. So basically, we need to simply address the question, why did you lie to me? Mm-hmm. Period. Not even about. Don't even say about such and such. Just, why did you lie to me?
Yeah. Now, initially when you were explaining it, I was assuming that both parties were aware that we both know about what happened 10 years ago.
Well, now we both don't know.
Okay. Steve said, bro, I be telling Shay all the time, don't overrule my emotions with your emotions.
Yeah. That's what I would do. Like, if Swanee came to me with that, it depends on, like you said earlier, aggression begets aggression. Like if she come to me aggressive, whoa,
I have to defend
myself. So you mad because I had sex? That ain't even an issue. But now I'm defensive and I'm trying to block you from really getting the real issue is I simply lied. Yeah. So let's deal with why did you lie to me?
Now another one last thing I wanted to mention earlier was, of course, if a situation that can get aggressive, A, it can get aggressive by approaching it with aggression. B, it can get aggressive with not actually addressing the actual problem or dealing with the actual problem. But also, if you go through these steps and they still don't work, the person is still aggressive, the only last resort I can think of is just to walk away.
Oh. You got to kill him.
It's just to walk away. And I think
try it again.
You can try it again another time. And I think that's another problem or another thing that we as people struggle with is being able to halt it here and let's just pick it back up on another time when we both have more time to process what's going on.
I agree.
People be trying to just go ahead and deal with it now or go ahead and like come to the conclusion now. Sometimes these things take time. Stevens, oh, he's already said that. Kevin said I got it. It's the self-image thing. Women don't want their image damaged, especially in their loved ones' lives.
And that's the thing though. That's a true statement, but it doesn't justify
the lie.
Though. You still lied. Yeah. I get that, okay, you're my husband. I mean, I'm Swanee's husband. I don't want her to see me smash another female, even though 10 years ago, I don't want to put that in your head, but like, she asked for that. So if she asked for it, I need to give her what she asked for and we can move on.
I want to say that was one of your questions, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. Does it justify?
No. Should we be concerned with what others are going to say?
I thought one had something to do with like, does it justify something? Or does something justify the reason we shouldn't approach it? Like, the fact that Swanee would ask me that, she opened that door. And then I'm trying to close it, but she opened it, though. So I get that women, I completely understand if Swanee, I don't want the image of me having sex with somebody that's in my wife's head, even though it was 10 years ago, but she opened that door and I should give her what she asked for. Because now I'm assuming that, you know, she don't want this, but she asking for it.
Yeah.
I get it, but it doesn't, the fact that, you know, females don't want their image ruined in the eyes of their loved one, I get that, but which would you rather have? An old version of you ruined or the current version of you ruined? Because both is going to get ruined. Yeah. If you lie to me, it's going to get ruined. I would much rather put the bad image on the old me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Kevin mentioned, hence the fixing of the car situation. She was so hurt by how you viewed her or how she thought you were viewing her in that situation. Like, bro, let that go.
Yeah, like, it's okay.
Steve said, head butt baby and let the blood fall on your face.
Right. If that don't work, back on, I got dog. We don't have no other option. I got to download this to you.
Kevin said, not at all.
Yeah, it don't justify it. So, like, what do we do then? Like, what do we do in that situation where you've lied and now you've turned something that wasn't something into nothing because now we've made it a thing? We brought up the confrontational moment. It has blew up like we thought it was going to blow up. Yeah. What do we do now?
I mean, once we address the lie, I think the conversation is going to go in a different direction at that point. Because now, the whole you sleeping with somebody else doesn't matter anymore. Now we need to address, why did you feel the need to lie to me? Do you not trust me? Do you feel like I can't trust you if you're honest with me about something? Like, that becomes a whole problem in itself that needs to be addressed.
And then that also depends on the way that conversation goes, depend on if the person is going to take accountability. So, dang, I did lie, and why did I lie? But 8 times out of 10, they're going to get defensive.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, as far as your question about what do we do at that point, that's what you should do. Now, what happens is this completely different ballgame. Takira said, just tell me the truth, bro, because if you lie now, I'm going to be like, I can't trust you. And that even goes back to our video we did about lying, and you know, a comment I mentioned, or the thing that I mentioned about lying to protect.
Yeah.
It's never a good idea to lie to protect, because what's happening is you're that person that you're lying to is creating a world or a reality based on the lie that you gave them.
And you got to uphold it.
And at all times, because the moment that the truth is now revealed, their reality now comes crashing down. So. Yeah, just go ahead and tell them, bro. But yeah, the whole 10 years ago, like, why would you feel the need to lie about that?
How do we deal though? Like, how do we deal with the response? Well, the reason that I lied is because I didn't want to put a bad image of me in your head. You don't get to determine that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get to determine what image I have. That's for me. Mm-hmm. And if I'm asking you for this, you should respect me enough to give it to me, even though your perception of it is disrespectful. And that goes back to accepting the fact that your perspective and my perspective are two totally different things. I would have much more respect if she go ahead and tell me than she would of lying, because lying now completely destroys you in my head. Mm-hmm. I can accept the old version of you doing something. What I can't accept is the current version of you continue to do something that I don't do to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
It's so many intricacies of moving parts.
I don't know. Maybe people become attached to the pattern that we've created in our relationship based on how you perceive me and how I perceive you. And if your perception of me changes at any moment, that alters like our pattern. Yeah, that alters what we are or what we could possibly be moving forward.
So that makes more sense of why she or he would lie. But I've always struggled with this. Not necessarily struggle because I ain't gonna do it, but it's kind of like once I understand why you did something, I am more empathetic about you doing it. But I don't need you to use that to keep doing it though. Mm-hmm. Like, I get if that's the perception, then I see why you lied, because you were scared that if you told me the truth, you would lose me. But I need you to understand that you're more likely to lose me at presently lying than you are at pastly telling the truth. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because again, 10 years ago, like, what does that have to do
like,
with now?
Care. Like, I don't care, son.
Man, this is amazing, by the way. I'm glad you switched over to that. So Steve said, why would a person be worried about it? And
females, I mean, I ain't trying to be sexist, but that's what they do that. But most of them, not all of them.
Yeah, because like, and we can make this a topic. People, I think we've actually mentioned this in another video, is how women lie about how many people they slept with. Like, it's, so I can, on one hand, yes, they shouldn't do it. But on the other hand, I can get how they come to that because of the way society has created this idea.
My chances with you,
right? Like, but a woman that
I would rather you just.
But that's only.
Would I rather you tell me you had 50 though? So I'm saying I ain't really trying to be 51.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the point.
I don't want you to lie, but I ain't trying to be 51. So that's one of the things where I'm just not gonna bring it up.
Right.
It's better for me to not know because I don't want you to lie, but I don't want I'm just not gonna bring it up.
Right.
I want to be 51, but I don't want you to lie. So,
but that's why they do it, is because they know that society would already perceive me as a whole or less than for having so many sexual partners. So I'm either going to lie about it or I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I'd rather you not say anything at all.
So
if I'm 51, then I don't want to.
So I get it, but that's something. Yeah, society needs to fix its perception of or its view of it, and then women need to also come to terms with owning their truth, regardless of how society, what label society places on you to begin with. Mm-hmm. Takir said, "Well, now it's some truth and honesty. If it's an answer like that, then I could understand your thought process."
Yeah, we can understand it, but stop doing it though. Don't keep doing it now. I'm gonna give you this one, but like if you do it again, I can't keep accepting. You're trying to uphold an image for me that I'm asking you for. If I'm asking you about a 10-year-old version of you, give me that version because that version doesn't affect this version.
Mm-hmm. Kevin said, I'm sure the fact that they are past lovers isn't helping though, but the lie is what needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, we have to deal with the specific lie.
Now, is this a person that the person that she's lying about, is this a person that is currently present in their lives?
No.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you definitely didn't need to lie about it.
No, you didn't have to do that.
Takir,
not actively present. Present enough to hide and buy, but not like conversation every day.
Okay, gotcha. Takir said exactly on point, Adrian. Steve said, "Man, a hoe is a hoe, male or female."
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Kevin said, "Thank you. They scared of the hoe label." Yes.
And we embrace it.
Yeah.
Like we wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Like a lasso of truth.
Oh, you not a hoe yet?
You not? You ain't made it to 15 yet?
Like, come on.
I got you. I got one for you. Come on. Got one in the back.
Steve said, "I had the mindset to accept it because I was that."
Yeah. But that's noble of you to know that whatever I am, I have to be willing to accept that from someone else.
But we have to also address society makes it okay for men to accept that we're hoes. They don't make it okay for women to accept being a hoe.
But to me, also with the Kevin situation, that would hurt me the most if I know that I have not told my wife a lie, and then you lie to me, because like the standard I'm giving you, I would expect that same, right? Now, if I know I lied to you about this thing, then you do it to me, I gotta take my lick. But I know that every girl you've asked me about, I've been open and honest. I didn't try to hide it. I didn't try to like downplay it. I told you. But then when I'm asking you, you're trying to protect the image of you that I'm asking you for. Respect me enough to give me that, because your perception is it's gonna look disrespectful. But for me, I can trust you because you're giving me the less valued version of you. But now I got this version.
Yeah. Steven said, I done been a 51.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. And if I have, I don't want to know. I want to know if I'm 51.
That is funny. I think one more thing I wanted to add to that is this idea that we have to be perfect. Like even when when we first meet people, we're the best. We try to be the best versions of ourselves in order to impress someone. And then I guess even when you get comfortable throughout the relationship, there are going to be some parts of you that get comfortable and you take off the blinders, but then there's other parts of you that you're still trying to protect in order to protect the whole, or that you're still going to withhold in order to protect the overall image of who you are to that person. And I think people just need to stop caring about how they're perceived. If someone can't accept you fully for who you are,
because that's the version they're going to eventually get anyway.
Correct. So,
but should we really just give them that version when we first meet them, though?
I feel like you should.
I mean, like farting, burping around them. Just go ahead and do it.
Yes.
No, sir.
I'm saying,
I get it. I get it.
Okay, so farting and burping, maybe not, but it's like the whole. So for me, I don't like women that wear makeup. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't like women that wear makeup. I would prefer. Let me clean it up. I don't prefer makeup on women. That's not to say that when women wear it, they don't look nice. It's fine if that's what you like. That's great. Me personally, I like natural beauty, right? Now I am able to admire, if someone dolls up, and I am able to admire. Okay, you look nice, but for me personally, I prefer my first interaction with you to be who you are without it. Right?
Then you can do it.
Because when you're approaching me with makeup or approaching me enhanced, as they like to say, and then you're continuously giving me that image with every interaction. Once we get to a state where I'm now able to see what you are without it, I've already fallen in love with the image you presented. Yeah. Like, present me with who you are or who I'm going to eventually see later on in our relationship, so I can fall in love with that. That way, when you take makeup off, I'm not bombarded with this Sasquatch in front of me. You know what I mean?
What in the world is that?
Right. So I guess that's what I mean by we need to start allowing people the opportunity to fall in love with who you are, or to determine how they feel about you as a person. And if they don't prefer you, be okay with that. Yeah. Find someone who does. If they do, then that's great, because now you don't have to uphold this image of you that isn't sustainable. Who you are 24/7 is sustainable because that's just who you are. You don't have to try to be that. And even for guys, like this whole, whatever it might be, trying to play like you got money or whatever the case, like even guys are getting extensions and stuff these days. You know what I mean? Like
you balling in
like
don't like just let it go.
Yeah, so
you gonna see that when you get in the shower,
right? Or when it washes off or something. So I think it's important for us to give people and then you're also robbing other people of the opportunity to decide if you're the kind of person they want to deal with at the end of the day.
Like I said, my husband is the same way about makeup.
Yeah. Again, I'm not knocking anybody who wears it. If you feel comfortable or pretty wearing it, by all means do it. And
You just ain't got a chance with my boy.
I'm not gonna.
No, I'm playing.
Come on.
I'm playing.
You have a chance, but I would like to be able to see you in your natural state as well. If you wear makeup, that's fine, but if you don't wear it, I love that as well. Give me the chance to see both sides and make a decision based off that. So that's just where I come from. It's just a preference for you. Yes, it is definitely a preference for me, Takir.
There was a lot of moving parts in addressing controversial situations, and I have to realize myself, everybody didn't like me, but I also want other people to realize that everybody should be like me. I'm playing. I'm really not playing, but I'm playing. But I think if I realize that everybody's not me, and they realize that, well, I'm not like the other people, we could both benefit from taking points from each other, and we can now eventually meet on the same page. Because you don't have people that's holding stuff in, nor do you have people that's always just throwing stuff out there. There has to be a middle ground somewhere.
Yeah, I guess this is a good stopping point. This has been a lovely conversation. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. For those of you who did, Takira, Kevin, Stephen, Rhonda tuned in at the beginning. She must have left. But thank you guys for also contributing to the conversation, adding your comments, asking questions as well. Catch us again, same time, same place, for another interesting conversation. If you haven't caught our other videos, you can always go to my YouTube page, type in Aaron Tate, that's AARONTATE. You should see my handsome face, and click on it. You'll have access to all the videos we've discussed, or all the topics we've discussed so far. But again, catch us same time, same place next week. Adrian should be posting throughout the week what our next topic will be, so be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to our future selves. One day we'll look back on this and wonder why we were like this in the first place, and we'll holler at you.